It started with a message out of nowhere. Jake. Bro, you still alive? I just moved back. We should catch up. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. His name lit up my phone like a spark catching dry leaves, sudden and dangerous. Jake was the kind of friend you never really forget. Loud, magnetic, unpredictable. We'd met in college. Roommates sophomore year, gym buddies by spring, practically inseparable by the end. He was straight. That part was never in question. But I'd been quietly in love with him anyway. That was years ago. After graduation, life drifted us apart. Jobs, cities, relationships. I moved on. Or at least, I told myself I had. And yet, the second I saw his name again, something old and heavy stirred in me. We met for coffee first. He looked the same, maybe leaner, more definition in his jaw, but still Jake. Same boyish grin, same habit of pulling me into a hug like no time had passed. I tried not to react when his arm slid behind my back or when his cologne, that familiar cedar and spice, hit me like a wave. We talked about nothing and everything. He'd just broken up with someone, something long-term. His face flickered when he mentioned her, but he didn't elaborate. I didn't ask. Instead, he leaned back and said, "You still work out? I need a gym buddy, man. I've gotten soft." I laughed. "You? Never." "Nah, I'm serious. Let's start tomorrow. Get the band back together." So we did. The gym smelled like metal and sweat and faint desperation. We picked up where we'd left off, like muscle memory. Jake always pushed harder than necessary. All about the burn, the flex, the high. He'd throw glances in the mirror, flash that grin, and flex at me like a dork. I rolled my eyes, but inside I was 16 again, pretending not to be completely wrecked by him. That day, after the workout, Jake pulled off his shirt, towel slung around his neck, abs still glistening with sweat. He sat on the edge of the bench, chest rising and falling, panting a little. He caught me watching. Only for a second. I looked away, sharp, embarrassed, pretended to dig through my gym bag. My ears went hot. Then came the voice. Low, teasing, familiar. "You're not supposed to look." I froze. Slowly, I turned to him. He was grinning. Not mocking, not cruel, just curious. "I wasn't," I muttered. "Sure," he said and laughed, a real laugh, not a punchline, not a dare, just Jake being Jake. But something shifted, in the air. Later, in the locker room, the mood was different. He didn't say anything else. We changed quietly. But I could feel the tension lingering in the silence, like a question neither of us knew how to ask yet. On the way out, he bumped his shoulder into mine. "Still the same shy guy?" he said. "You always looked at me like I was going to disappear." I didn't know what to say, because he had disappeared. And now he was back, shirtless and smiling, saying things he never used to say. Maybe it meant nothing. Maybe it meant everything. All I knew was this. I was looking again. And this time, I wasn't sure he minded. Some people fade in memory, like water on pavement. Jake was not one of them. Even in college, he was never easy to forget. He had this way of making everyone feel like they were the center of the room. But with me, it was different. Or at least, I wanted to believe it was. There were nights when we stayed up past 2 in our dorm room, lying on our beds across from each other, trading stories in the dark like secrets only we could keep. He used to throw things at me, socks, water bottles, granola bars, just to get my attention. He'd sit too close on the couch during movie nights, legs brushing mine for hours. There were the bro hugs that lingered too long, and the time he fell asleep on my shoulder at a party, breathing softly against my neck. I didn't move the entire night. I just listened to his heartbeat and memorized the moment. None of it meant anything. That's what I told myself. But back then, every glance, every laugh, every accidental touch was a quiet agony, beautiful, intimate, and always just out of reach. Now, years later, it was happening again. Only this time, he wasn't 19, and neither was I. We were men now, different, and yet somehow the same. Jake had always been flirty in a careless, straight boy way, charming and unaware of the impact. But lately, it felt different. His eyes lingered too long when I laughed. He made excuses to touch, fist bumps, shoulder nudges, even once brushing imaginary lint from my chest. I caught him watching me in the mirror at the gym, not just checking form, but watching. It was subtle, but it was constant, and I didn't know what to do with it. That night it rained, not a dramatic downpour, just a steady, rhythmic fall that made the city feel quieter than usual. After our workout, Jake suggested grabbing Thai food from the place near my apartment. We brought it upstairs, our clothes still clinging to us with gym sweat and damp from the misty air. My balcony wasn't fancy, just 2 metal chairs and a chipped little table. But it had a view of the street below and the skyline beyond. We sat there with our plastic containers and paper napkins, eating quietly while the rain tapped overhead. Jake leaned back in his chair, arms behind his head, legs stretched out. His t-shirt was damp and clung to his chest in a way I tried hard not to notice. "You ever think we peaked in college?" he asked, picking at his noodles. I glanced at him. "You're still jacked and charming. I think you're doing fine." Gave me a small smile, but his eyes didn't match it. "Yeah, but I don't know. That was the last time I really felt connected to anyone. Like, really connected." Something tightened in my chest. "What about your ex?" I asked cautiously. He shook his head, exhaling slowly. "We lived together, but it felt like I was always performing, like I had to be this perfect guy all the time. I could never just be." He stared at the rain beyond the railing. The glow of the city lit his profile in soft gold. "I haven't really felt close to anyone in a long time," he said. There was a beat of silence. Then, his hand moved. He reached across the table, not far, not dramatic, and touched my wrist. Just 2 fingers, resting lightly against the skin above my pulse. It was small, but it felt enormous. I didn't move. I couldn't. His thumb brushed over the inside of my wrist once, slow and deliberate. Not accidental, not careless. And then he left it there, like an anchor. I swallowed. "Jake," I said, almost a whisper. He looked up at me, his expression unreadable, part soft, part guarded. "Sorry," he said, pulling his hand back like it had burned him. I didn't mean to be weird." "You weren't," I said quickly. Too quickly. "I just wasn't expecting it." He gave a small nod, then ran a hand through his wet hair like he was trying to shake off the moment. We sat in silence for a while after that. The sound of rain filled the space, where words couldn't go. I stared at the table, at the water droplets collecting on the metal, at the ghost of his touch still warming my skin. Inside my head, a war was raging. Could a straight guy do that and mean nothing? Could he say those things about closeness, about not being himself, and not be reaching out? Or was I just seeing what I wanted to see? Again, when he left that night, he lingered in the doorway. "This was good," he said. "Hanging out like this. It feels normal." "Yeah," I replied. "It does, but nothing about it felt normal. It felt like a beginning, or the edge of a cliff, and I didn't know whether we were about to fall or fly." It was a Thursday when it happened. The night that shifted everything without really changing a thing. The gym had been unusually brutal. Jake had pushed us hard, laughing through every rep, challenging me to one more set like we were still college boys trying to impress each other. By the time we collapsed on my living room floor, soaked in sweat and sore from head to toe, it was already close to midnight. "I'm dead," Jake groaned, flat on his back. "I'm not walking back to my place," I laughed, breathless. "Then don't." He propped himself up on one elbow, looking at me. "You sure? I mean, just crash here?" My heart gave a little stutter, but I nodded. "Yeah, of course. You've done it 100 times. "Yeah," he said softly, "but not lately." There was only one bed. I offered to sleep on the couch, but he rolled his eyes. "Dude, it's a bed. It's not like we've never shared one before." And he was right, we had. A few times, back in college, after parties, during road trips, once when the heat went out and we slept under 3 blankets. But it had never felt like this before. Now we were adults. Now my feelings weren't a half-formed secret, but something fuller, sharper, harder to control. I changed in the bathroom, taking longer than necessary. When I came out, the lights were off and Jake was already under the covers on the right side of the bed, his usual side. I slid in slowly, careful, not to let our bodies touch, though the mattress dipped between us like gravity was trying to force it. We lay in silence. The room was quiet except for the hum of the radiator and the occasional hiss of wind through the cracked window. I could feel him breathing. I could feel me breathing. Shallow, fast, every inhale laced with panic. Don't think about his arm. Brushing yours. Don't think about how the sheets smell like cedar and sweat and Jake. Don't think about the way his hand had lingered on your wrist. "You ever wonder," he said suddenly, voice low in the dark, "if maybe we got it wrong?" My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" I asked, too quickly. He was quiet for a long moment. "Just life. Who we think we're supposed to be. What we say we want. What if it's not really that simple?" I turned my head toward him. My eyes adjusted just enough to see the faint outline of his profile, the way his mouth moved slightly when he spoke. "Is this about your ex?" I asked. "No," he said. Then, after a pause, "It's about everything." Another silence. Then, he said, "There are nights I think about you, about us." I stopped breathing. "In college, you were the only person I ever really felt safe with," he whispered. "I didn't know what it was then. I still don't. But lately, he didn't." Finish the sentence, my throat felt tight. I wanted to reach for him, to hold him, to tell him he wasn't crazy, that I felt it too, that I always had. But I didn't move. "Jake, don't freak out," he said, his voice so quiet I almost didn't hear it. I need you to know. It's been messing with my head." He shifted, turning toward me. We were close now, closer than we'd been in years. I could feel his breath on my face. My skin buzzed. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Anything." "Did you ever feel it too back then?" I didn't answer right away, because the truth was loud in my chest, screaming to be let out, and saying it would mean stepping off a cliff I'd stood on for years. But in the dark, with no eyes on me but his, I said, "Yeah, I did." He didn't move, didn't speak. But I felt the energy shift, that electric moment before something happens, before something changes. His hand found mine under the sheets, fingers brushed, stilled. Then slowly, he leaned in. I could see his eyes now, searching, vulnerable, terrified. And I knew, in that moment, that he wanted to kiss me. He almost did. But just before our lips met, he pulled back. "Forget it," he said, voice thick. "I'm tired." He rolled over, turned away, left me lying there, heart pounding, mouth slightly open, skin buzzing with the ghost of what almost was. I didn't sleep. I lay there, eyes wide in the dark, replaying every second. What had just happened? Did he mean it? Or was it fear, loneliness, confusion? Was he experimenting, regretting, testing? Or was he on the edge of something real, like me? I wanted to reach out, say something, anything. But I didn't, because the truth was, I was scared too. Scared of breaking whatever fragile thread had formed between us. Scared of rushing it, scared of hurting him, scared of hurting me. So I stayed still, listening to the rain outside and to the space between us that suddenly felt much, much louder than silence. It was subtle at first, a missed gym session, then another. "Hey man, sorry, work ran late. Rain check? Not feeling great today? Tomorrow, yeah?" At first, I told myself not to overthink it. People get busy, life happens. But the messages came slower, shorter. No emojis, no lingering jokes. The playfulness that used to live between every word, gone. By the third canceled plan, I knew. He was pulling away, and I couldn't even blame him. Not really. We had crossed a line that night. Even if our lips never touched, the air between us had changed, thick with things unsaid, things felt, things feared. Maybe for him it was a mistake. For me, it was a window cracked open only to be slammed shut again. I didn't know what I was anymore. A friend, a secret, a regret. All I knew was the ache in my chest didn't feel like confusion. It felt like heartbreak. The final blow came on a Friday. I texted, "Gym at 7? I need to feel like I exist again." He read it. No reply. Hours passed. Then, "Can't tonight. Hope you're good." That was it. Hope you're good. Like I was someone he once knew. Like a stranger. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and walked out the door. It was raining again. Because, of course, it was. I didn't even know what I was doing until I was standing outside his apartment, soaked to the bone, heart thudding in my chest like a fist trying to punch its way out. I rang the buzzer. No answer. I rang again. And again. Finally, the door clicked. I pushed it open and climbed the stairs 2 at a time. Jake opened the door halfway, wearing an old hoodie and a surprised look. "Hey," his voice was low, guarded. "What are you doing here?" I pushed, past him into the apartment. My clothes left puddles behind me. "Was it all a joke to you?" He froze. "What?" "That night. The things you said, the way you touched me. Was it all just something you needed to get out of your system? Because if it was, fine. But don't treat me like I imagined it." Jake closed the door slowly. He didn't answer right away. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he said finally. "Then why did you disappear?" He ran a hand through his hair and sat down on the edge of the couch like his legs couldn't hold him up anymore. "Because I don't know what I'm doing," he said. "I don't know what this is." "It's me, Jake," I said, voice shaking. "It's me. I've always been here. You don't have to figure it all out. Just don't lie to me." His hands clenched into fists on his knees, his jaw tightened. And then, quietly, like a dam cracking, "I think about you all the time." I didn't breathe. "I'll be doing nothing, driving, showering, watching a movie, and you're just there. I remember how you used to look at me in college, how I never asked why. I think about that night on your balcony, about your wrist under my hand. I think about what would have happened if I hadn't pulled away." He looked up. His eyes were wet, but he wasn't crying. Not yet. "I don't know if I'm straight. I don't know what label fits. I just know when I'm around you, I feel seen, like I can finally be quiet and still and not pretend." Then, "Why are you running?" Because I'm scared, he said, voice cracking. I've lived my whole life in this box, this idea of who I'm supposed to be. And you don't fit in that. But you make me feel like maybe I don't need the box anymore. I stepped closer. Jake. He looked up again, eyes locked on mine. I'm scared, he repeated. But I'm more scared of losing you. That broke something open in me. And suddenly I was kneeling in front of him, my hands on his knees, my forehead nearly touching his. You haven't lost me, I said. Not yet. He leaned in. No hesitation this time. Our lips touched, soft, uncertain, trembling, like we were both holding our breath inside it. Not a cinematic kiss, not perfect, but real. A question answered, a wall collapsed. When we finally pulled back, he exhaled like he hadn't breathed in days. That felt... Yeah, I whispered. It did. He pulled me into him then, arms around my back, holding tight like he was afraid I'd disappear if he let go. We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in quiet, our heartbeats sinking, the sound of the rain softening the edges of everything. There were no promises, no declarations, just presence, just us, and for the first time, that was enough. Something shifted after that night. Not overnight. Not like a switch flipped and suddenly everything was easy. But something fundamental, something quiet and honest, was now wide open between us. There were still questions, still hesitation, in Jake's eyes when people got too close or when the world felt too big. But between us, there was peace. A new rhythm began to form. Mornings at the gym became sacred again, not because of the workouts, but because of the way Jake would nudge my arm between sets, or lean in to whisper something dumb just to see me laugh. He'd flash that crooked smile of his when he caught me watching him, and sometimes, when no one was looking, he'd brush his fingers lightly against mine. Once, while spotting him on the bench press, he looked up at me, breathless, smiling, and said, "You know this is kind of romantic, right?" And it was. Nights were even better. He started crashing at my place more often. Just easier than going home, he said. And our routines blurred into something domestic, something real. We cooked badly, laughed through burnt pasta, and watched movies curled up under a blanket that was far too small for two grown men. One night I realized we were holding hands under the blanket. Neither of us mentioned it. We just stayed like that, fingers tangled, warm, safe. Another night, as we walked through the neighborhood under cold November rain, Jake reached out and slid his hand into mine. Not in secret, not hidden. He did. It under his jacket, sure, but not like he was ashamed. More like he was claiming something, testing the feel of it. And I let him. Because I wanted that too. We talked, not all at once, not in a rush, but over time, piece by piece, the questions came. "Do you think people will freak out?" Jake asked one night, lying beside me in the dark. "Some will," I said. "Some won't. The ones that matter will stay." "What if I don't have the words for all this?" "Then don't use them yet. Just feel it." He nodded. "It's weird," he said. "I keep waiting for it to feel wrong, but it doesn't. It doesn't feel wrong to me either." He reached out, brushed his knuckles across my cheek. "You've always been the only place that ever felt like home." There was still fear, moments when Jake would get quiet, lost in his own thoughts, staring out the window like the world was pressing in again. But now he let me sit beside him in those silences. He didn't push me away, and sometimes when words failed, he'd just reach for my hand, hold it tight, and I'd know exactly what he meant. We never defined it out loud. There was no need for labels, not yet. What we had was exploration, both emotional and quiet. Like discovering a song you'd heard your whole life but finally understanding the lyrics. There were days when it felt like we were kids again, laughing, wrestling on the couch, eating junk food, teasing each other, endlessly. And there were nights when we said nothing at all, just laid in the same bed, the city humming outside the window, and let our breathing slow in sync. It was slow-burn intimacy, built on memory and trust, and years of almosts. One evening, I caught him staring at me across the dinner table, eyes soft, fork paused halfway to his mouth. "What?" I asked, smiling. He shook his head. "Nothing. I didn't think I'd ever feel this calm, this okay with not knowing who I am." I reached across the table and took his hand. "You don't have to know. Not yet. Just be here." "I am," he said. "I really am." We were becoming us, in pieces, in pauses, in everyday moments that added up to something steady, something beautiful, and neither of us was running anymore. The gym was buzzing. Clanks of metal, bursts of music through someone's earbuds, the soft thud of sneakers on mats. But to me, it all faded the moment Jake tossed me a bottle of water and smirked. "You're slowing down, old man." I rolled my eyes, wiping sweat off my forehead. "Says the guy who almost dropped the bar last set." He laughed, that easy, familiar laugh that had once wrecked me. Now, it just made me feel anchored. We moved through our routine like we always did, only now there were little things. A wink here, a knee nudge, that quiet smile he saved just for me. At one point, while he was at the dumbbell rack, I found myself watching him again. Not just his form, but the way his muscles moved under. His shirt, the concentration in his face, the slight flush in his cheeks. He turned around suddenly and caught me. I looked away. Too late. Jake walked over, towel slung over his shoulder, eyes twinkling. "Caught you staring again," he whispered, just loud enough for me to hear. I shrugged, trying to play it cool. "You wear gym clothes like they're a trap. Not my fault." "Not complaining," he said, voice low and warm. "In fact..." He stepped closer. My heart did that dumb little thing it still did around him, even now. Jake leaned in, casual, unhurried, and kissed me, right there, between the weight racks and cardio machines. Soft and quick, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like we weren't breaking a rule, like we never had. I blinked at him, grinning stupidly. "What was that for?" I asked. He shrugged. "You were looking," he said, "and I hoped you would." We finished our workout and left the gym with shoulders brushing, warmth in the air, and something steadier between us than we'd ever had before. No more guessing, no more almosts, just two people figuring it out, together, moment by moment, breath by breath. He wasn't supposed to look back, but he did, and that changed everything.